Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Calvert, and thanks very much again for tuning in to Advisor Lives, where we talk to a variety of people within the world of financial advice. And today, my guest is Victoria Hicks. Now, Vicky is Group CEO of Melo, and that's not a name that everybody will be familiar with just yet, because Melo is still a relatively new name to the industry. So we'll talk about what Melo is and what it's about and who they are. But first of all, hi Vicky, how are you today?
Hello, Phil. Thank you very much for having me on today. I have come with a bucket of iced coffee to get me through this next hour.
Okay, you need the caffeine then, do you?
What time is it? 3:30 on a Monday. We're doing well, aren't we, Phil?
Fantastic. So whereabouts are you based, Vicky?
In Leeds, the
Okay,
capital of the North. Yep, just outside of Leeds in a place called Horsforth. Been here now for, gosh, the last 4 years or so, moving around various offices.
fantastic. So let's start at the beginning and work up to Melo, and so that people get a better understanding where you have come from and why you're running the business that you're running today. So you've been an advisor. Tell us how it all got started for you.
So I started as an advisor at 23, and it was actually a result of me being made redundant from Northern Rock. So I've always worked in finance, started in finance when I was 18 for the National Australia Bank Group, then into the Halifax whilst I was at university working in branches, onto Northern Rock from there. 2008 hit, so Northern Rock were obviously one of the first ones to go. That led to a redundancy, and actually it was a result of that redundancy payment that gave me that opportunity to move into self-employment. That was actually my route in, was self-employment. I mean, who would do that, Phil, right? No qualifications, no clients. I'm just going to go and do it myself.
Just had a bit of belief there, yeah?
Just going to have a bit of belief, right? So, but yeah, that was it. It was a friend of mine's dad, actually. He was an advisor for the Open Work Network. And he said, "You'd be so good at what I do. Tell me all about it." And he told me all about it. And I was like, right, I'm going to do that. The rest is history. Loved it.
That's interesting. So before we go any further, so what was it
Yeah.
about perhaps being an advisor that appealed to you?
Oh, it was speaking to people, getting to know people, building long-term relationships with people. Like, that's what I love, when people open up to you and tell you things about what they want to achieve and where they want to go. And we're so blessed. Like, I remember reading right at the start of my career, I read a paper that Paul Armson had put out.
Yeah.
And he said, like, quite near the start of it, he said, there aren't many professions that are so important as being a financial planner. And he explained why, what we were trusted with, and how important this relationship was for people, for their lives, for their stability. And it was really eye-opening. It was like, my goodness, like, this is really important. What I'm
Yeah.
doing really matters. And I just took that so seriously. And financial planning is where I've always been,
That's
not
really
just
interesting. I
advice, financial
mean,
planning.
yeah, when you look at financial planners, financial advisors today, there was a time when the skill set was, can you sell?
Yes.
That was it. Today, it's much broader, isn't it? Who would have thought? There's a
Yeah.
lot of people talking about financial coaching these days, and whether or not the profession is straddling personal finance and personal coaching and life coaching. And I know some people kind of balk at that idea, but it's a big skill set now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely vital. And the more and more firms I speak to and engage with, the more excited I get about the opportunity that we have to really make a difference in people's lives. We used to, even when I started, which was, 2008 or so, it was pre-RDR. RDR was on the horizon, but we were still mainly selling products that providers had to offer.
Yeah.
So we had the solution there. And financial planning is totally different. The product comes last, and it's much more about, as we all know, it's about understanding clients and what are their aspirations and what are their hopes. But I really feel like financial coaching goes that very necessary step further.
Yeah.
because actually what that talks about is the relationship people have with their money. And if you really get to understand somebody's financial blueprint and their background in terms of how they understand money and how they interact with money, it actually sets a scene for an amazing financial planning journey with those clients and then an amazing outcome. So I actually think what this financial coaching and this financial well-being side of things lends itself to is an improvement to the planning process. I think it's fascinating. The psychology of human beings, it's absolutely fascinating.
What I'm particularly interested about is I'm seeing more and more advisors these days who are beginning to think, okay, typically we only take on these sort of clients to do financial planning. But if we step into the coaching world, we can potentially look at non-regulated areas as well. And I'm having conversations with advisors all the time at the moment saying, well, could we run this alongside our regulated business as well? I think we've got real change here right now.
We've got to do something. I think I read the other day, 8% of adults in the UK have access to financial advice or
Yeah.
financial planning or whatever people want to term it. 8%. Everybody should have access to something. But the problem with regulation, right, and it's for good and for bad. Yeah, we understand why it's there and we understand it's to protect consumers. And in many ways, it's improved things dramatically. But, equally, it makes the delivery of advice so expensive.
Yeah.
That and that naturally pushes a load of people out of being able to access it, and it feels unfair. But with
That's it.
different ways.
You put that in a really interesting way. I've often felt that financial planning is a concept that huge numbers of people out there think they know they need, but we as a profession have not made a very good job of selling the concept to people. I think a lot of people will be thinking that maybe financial planning is one of those things that you kind of need to experience it before you actually get it. And maybe the profession hasn't made a very good job of promoting what we actually do.
Yeah. Why is this? I mean, I think there's numerous reasons, actually. I think one of the reasons is that it's such a fragmented profession. We don't have kind of a unified voice. But one of my biggest bugbears actually is how many different terms we want to use for the same role. Like, if people want a lawyer, they find a lawyer. If they want an accountant, they find an accountant. But actually, what am I looking for? Am I looking for a financial advisor, a financial coach, a wealth manager,
Yeah.
an IFA?
Yeah. Life planner, lifestyle financial planner, financial life planner.
Yeah.
And so it goes on.
And the basis of what we are trying to get across here is it's about people's financial stability. It's about that money makes the world go round, right? Everything that you want to do and achieve is going to be based on probably whether you have the time, money, and health to be able to do those things. And that's what financial planning is. It's making your money do all of the things that you want to achieve today and in the future.
Yeah.
And that concept should be quite easy for people to understand. But yeah, we're not getting the message out there. We're not talking loud enough. We're not using a nice consensus in terms of what we're going to call it.
Yeah, I think a lot of advisors, by their own admission, will say we're not natural marketers. So that's fair enough. So you're working as an advisor now.
Yes.
And what happened next?
So I worked as a self-employed advisor for 7 years. Loved it. Built a lovely client bank and hit a ceiling. So I was on my own within a very small practice, just outside of Leeds. And when you want to continue to improve and improve and improve, that tends to come with a type of client that you need to target that's going to stretch you. And I was dealing very much with, families, right? And I wanted to really test my knowledge and move into dealing more with professionals. So I recognized that the only way I would do that would be to join a firm, became employed, Phil, for a period of time, joined a firm that had access to those types of clients and those connections. So I joined a business in Leeds. They were very well known, and really got to start to work with accountants and solicitors, and found my niche, which was working with trust clients and working closely with private client lawyers. So I went down the step route.
Ah.
So I did my diploma, I did my chartered exams, and then I went down the step route just so that I really could. And you talked about marketing actually earlier on, and financial planners not being great at it, which I agree. That was great for me from a marketing perspective, because you know, I really could stand out in Leeds on the professional circuit as one of the only advisors that had that accreditation to my name. So yeah, that was brilliant. And then I think the itch of like doing something for myself was always going to come back, because it's what I'd always done for so long. So I made the decision to leave the firm that I was with, and I was going to go off on my own and start up again, my own new business, knowing what my niche was with all my qualifications. And I was approached by a chap who'd heard about me on the grapevine, and he said, I'm buying a firm in York, and it's a retiree who's looking to exit, and would you like to come in and help? I said, well, I want to do something for myself, I want to create some value. And he said, well, I'll give you some shares. And the guy didn't know me from Adam. But sometimes these opportunities, I think to myself, like, through your life you must have, I don't know, a million decisions to make, maybe every month, right?
Yeah.
But there's probably only a handful of decisions that you're going to make across your whole life that are really going to make a difference. And I like to try and see them and grab onto them. And this one felt like one of those. I didn't know him, he didn't know me. He wanted to take a chance on me. I liked the cut of his jib, and I went into this firm in York. We doubled turnover in no time. Gave the exiting advisor a really nice glide path out to retirement. They ended up putting me on the board for the group. That was really enlightening, because I got to understand what it meant to be sat around a boardroom table with people who were running a multi-site IFA practice. We got quite big, and in the end we sold. We were acquired at the end of 2018, and unexpected. You know, we were growing business, we were integrating firms, we were acquiring firms, and the idea of the acquisition was that we'd kind of reached a bit of a ceiling, and by being part of something bigger, we would be able to do more. But unfortunately, the reality was quite different. We all felt like birds with our wings clipped almost instantly, and there was a mass exodus. And I was one of those. And I was under a share purchase agreement, so that meant that I was time barred. It's a normal, what you would expect in a share purchase agreement, is that there are restrictive covenants in there to say, you know, you work with us, we've acquired your business, so you work with us, which I totally get. But I couldn't do it. Love the profession. So it was a case of, what can I do to continue to work with the profession? And I'd recognized along the way, through us acquiring businesses and being acquired, that there was a real gap for proper practitioner-led advice to sellers who were looking to exit. This space is full of buyer brokers. I think often there's a bit of a misconception out there in the market. People will say, you know, I've spoken to a broker, or I have a broker. My first question to them is, are you paying that broker? No. Hey, well, they are a broker for buyers, you know, or they are a broker for a panel of buyers. And I wanted to offer true sell-side advice from somebody that understood them. And the rest is history, as they say. So I moved into M&A sort of middle of 2019.
And that was the exit partnership, am I right there?
Yeah, with a previous name actually. So the exit partnership started, it was called City and Capital Acquisitions because it was an
Ah, yeah, I
extension of
remember the
my
name.
husband's business. Yeah, so he's got City and Capital Headhunters, and we decided to keep the name. And then it was probably about 3 years ago or something now, we did the rebrand to the exit partnership. And that was really us saying, we want this to be more of a lifestyle business and we need to build a brand that says exactly what it does on the tin. And so the exit partnership was born. Although some people did say it sounds a bit like Dignitas. So I'm not sure it did exactly what it said on the tin.
You get the branding right there, haven't you? That's an
Yeah.
interesting. And so you teamed up with Brian Hill, am I right?
Mm,
Now, Brian
which,
had his own business, didn't he? I've known Brian for quite a while. I was
yeah.
he's my go-to example for financial advisors that need to create a really great website. And his website, he knew his market, but he differentiated his from everybody else's because up front and center he'd got video testimonials from clients that he'd worked with, and there were these people sitting on their own sofas in their own houses saying on camera, you know, since Brian came into our lives, a weight has been lifted off our shoulder. He
Oh,
feels like a family friend. And, you know, some of us go, oh, Brian, come on. But it just is so powerful, so powerful.
he changed my life actually, if I'm being honest with you. Yeah. I'd had a couple of people work with me and nobody that had kind of got that same oomph as me and that same drive as me. And then I met Brian and I remember telling my friends actually afterwards, I was like, I think I've met somebody that could totally change kind of the direction I go in with this
Yeah.
business. And then I had that nervousness. Oh my goodness, what if he doesn't want to join me? What if he doesn't? You know, um, he is such an amazing combination of characteristics. You know, he comes up with some things, the sparks of ideas that are literally, you
Mm,
know, like genius level. But he's always really elevated me and he's pushed me out of my comfort zone in a way that I don't think I'd have ever
right.
um stepped, you know, I wouldn't have stepped out, but he really did push me out of my comfort zone. And I remember from like day 2 or something of him working with me and he was talking very much like it was his business. And I really felt this weight just start to lift
Mm.
off my shoulders. And I trust him. I trust him implicitly. I'm super duper lucky to have him
So
alongside.
this is very interesting because there's a bit of a theme here from your past. Um, there's got to, you know, to work with the firm you did. There was something about working with the other person, the chemistry that was there,
Yeah,
and then we're seeing that again with Brian. And from anything I've read and understand about mergers, sales, and acquisitions, there's got to be proper chemistry as well. Yes, the numbers and all that are important, but the people. Tell us a little bit about that from the perspective of selling your business or indeed
yeah.
buying one.
Well, we're selling service-based businesses. You know, they're entirely relying on people. What we sell is our brains and our time. And you've got to enjoy the environment that you're working in. And, you know, with a lot of sales of other types of businesses, you can sell and you can walk away. But when you're selling a business that is a service-based business, what you're really selling, whether you're selling the assets or the shares or whatever, right? What you're really selling is that client goodwill,
Hmm.
that client goodwill that they've shown to you, that the buyer is hoping that they continue to show to them. And if you get that match right, then that's a great success, right? If your clients, it's understanding why are your clients with you? Why do they stay with you?
Hmm.
Why are your staff with you? And why do they stay with you? That's your culture. And we've got to make sure that when you sell, that we get that cultural alignment piece right because you've got to stay around for a bit. there's going to be a period of time that you've got to work with the acquiring firm. You've got to hand over those relationships. And that's why we talk about culture before cash. So never instead of cash, but culture before cash. And we've been talking about this for years, right? And I am so glad that the market now is catching up, because there have been for far too many years were acquirers saying to sellers things like, you know, sell to us and nothing will change.
Oh, we've heard that one before. Yeah.
Yeah. Or certain, like, perhaps mistruths that might have been told along the way, right? And the reality is, when you sell your business, things are going to change. But now that we are in, now that we're post consumer duty, you know, actually what that's really forcing is, it is forcing firms to integrate successfully and to ensure a fairness across a buyer's existing clients plus the clients that are being acquired. So that means that things have got to change. So when it's now sellers going into meetings with buyers and talking to possible buyers about their firm, we're really taking a deep look into what is the culture of your business? What do your clients enjoy? What do you enjoy? What do your staff enjoy? And let's make sure that it's going to be a good outcome for all.
That's interesting. So before we get to where this all sits with Melo, so culture before cash, when you look at financial advisors in the Facebook group, in Life Talk,
Yeah.
from time to time, we will see people posting anonymously, fair enough, saying, how do we calculate the value of my business? That seems to be the most common question. Where do you think advisors might be going wrong? Why is that the wrong question? I know it's the right question in their heads right now, but why is that the wrong question to be asking?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to know, like, broadly what the value of your business is going to be, so that you know that you're approaching the market the right way. Although your value of your business, you know, there's such a spread of valuations. But the reality is, you only know what your business has sold for when the last check hits your bank account. So the way that most deals are structured is, you might receive 50% on completion, maybe 60% if somebody's feeling particularly generous. But then the rest of the money will be paid out in stages. And that's usually based on some form of conditionality.
Yeah.
So that might be, if you retain or you maintain the recurring income we are acquiring, we will pay you your next payment. If you maintain the client list we are buying or the profit we are buying, we will make that next payment, those subsequent payments. And your ability to do that depends on what is the client's experience going to be. And I'll broaden it out, actually, just from clients. It's actually looking at the key stakeholders, right? Because as business owners, it's your right to, of course, sell your business. You're the shareholders, or you're the owners of the business. But you do have to pay particular attention to the stakeholders. And the stakeholders are the people that are going to make that a success or make that a failure. And I tend to focus on two key groups of stakeholders: staff, who keep the wheels turning. Usually they're very involved with clients as well. So, you know, they help to create that environment that clients enjoy. And as I said, what the clients expect from you and what they value from you. And unless that they continue to receive that post sale, they'll vote with their feet, right? And then that could be absolutely catastrophic. So we have another saying, we have many sayings, but another saying we have is, look beyond the headline. And I spoke about that actually quite a bit at the IER conference a few weeks ago. There's no point in chasing the highest figure if actually a load of your clients are going to walk, or a load of your staff are going to walk, and then clients are going to leave as a result of that. It's about looking at the whole package and understanding what is the likelihood of me achieving in full the deferred payments that are yet to come.
So there's so much, isn't there? I know there's an article on your website about how to communicate your sale to your staff.
Yeah.
I would imagine that is a crucial moment in the whole process.
Oh, it's terrifying for business owners, you know. Sometimes they feel like they've done something wrong.
Mm,
I'm like, everyone exits. Everybody exits, right? And what people want is just clear communication. And what your staff really want to know is, are we going to be okay? And there is a point in the process where it is advisable to tell your staff, but it's quite a delicate balance because sometimes what you don't want to do is necessarily get them concerned about something or even thinking about something when it's just the fledgling of an idea.
yeah, yeah.
Equally, you don't want to leave it too late. We left it too late with our firm. You know, we sold, I think the ink was drying at like 11 p.m. on Friday, the 31st of November, I think it was. And that's quite usual actually that these things are done after hours. And because we sold to a listed company, so it's going to be in the press, we then had to ring up all the staff and tell them that weekend after it was
Oh,
done
right.
before they
Okay.
came in on Monday. So you know, it all felt a bit rushed and people didn't feel naturally, you know, like they were involved and therefore they start to feel maybe like they're not that important. So there's a point in the journey where you tell them, there's a point in the journey where you want to get their engagement, but you do so when it's the right time and when you've got the right amount of information as well to tell them. Um, there's some nuances to that, I suppose. Like quite often, the people who are maybe running the business aren't managers of the data within the business.
Okay.
So sometimes to help the process run as smoothly as possible, you need to find perhaps a couple of trusted colleagues within the organization that can help you through the process so that you can, you know, do it as smoothly as possible. But generally, there is a point in the process where it's advisable to tell them, and we help with that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we
Yeah.
sit down and in fact, we've got one of our sellers just today who's got a lovely bunch of offers in for their business. You know, it's really real now, and they've been itching to tell their staff because you know, it's a very open office and they
Yeah.
don't keep anything from anybody. And he's got a real nice
Great.
approach, you know,
Yeah.
into going into that meeting.
Great. So we've got to the point then. You've sold a business.
Mm-hmm.
Brian sold a business.
Mm-hmm.
The exit partnership is up and running. And next thing we know, the internet is hit by some of the most exciting and strong branding that I've seen in many, many years. And Melo hits the world. Tell us about Melo. What was the thinking behind it? Because there's more to it than just exits, isn't there?
My fault. It it was last summer. Um, I had some time off work, right, which always gets your brain going, doesn't it? You know, when you've just got that freedom away from anything and big whiteboard, and I'm like, right, what can we do? Um, but I think sitting in the exit space, we dealt with firms that were at the point of exit, and our capabilities were in that area, and our resource was all in that space as well. So when firms would come to us and perhaps they weren't ready to exit or they had improvements to make, we kind of had to send them off on their way.
Mm.
But what I'd also recognise was quite a common theme across the firms that we had engaged with. Like Brian and I have popped the bonnet probably on 400 or so businesses. By and large, really happy clients, by and large, really happy staff. But dare I say, you know, not not amazing businesses, right? Quite
Okay.
often. Or not achieving what they could achieve,
Yeah.
right? And I looked out there and thought, well, why is this, right? And we're a profession that's governed by academia and governed by regulation. And great advisors don't mean great business people. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You know, what advisors are doing more so now is outsourcing the things that they're not great at. They're
Yeah.
outsourcing the power planning and their compliance and their marketing so that they can really focus on where they are strongest. But there wasn't an outsourced solution for people that wanted support to just grow.
Okay.
There are training companies out there that help firms to scale, and you can read a lot online. But a business that really understands the financial planning world implicitly, right? We have 137 years of regulated experience in our business. That's years experience working in financial planning firms, growing them, exiting them, running them, you know, you name it, we understand it. We understand the end game. And that's really important, right? There's that saying, isn't there? Like, if you don't know where you're going, it's probably going to take you a while to get there. I feel
Yeah.
that that is not just symptomatic of business owners in the financial planning world. I think that's just symptomatic of small business owners everywhere. And we understand, right? So we know the end game. We know what business is, what's adding to value, what's detracting from value. We've got an amazing team of people that can work with ambitious businesses that want to grow, increase value, and increase exit options.
Right.
And that's what we're here for, right? You know, to be that trusted partner to these firms that want to go on this really exciting growth journey, and that understand that that means investing in people, that means investing in resource, in technology. Our firms don't want to just add another advisor or two, right? We're working with some firms that literally want to revolutionize
Right.
how financial planning is working. They want to not advise the 8%, they want to find ways to advise
Yeah.
everybody out there. And it's fascinating. So I recognize that to do this, I would need to bring in other experts. So I merged in with a business called Change Squared that's run by Ben Wright. He is a fellow of the PFS. He sits on the board for the PFS. He's got a master's in business something or other. And like a boundless ball of amazing energy that just wants to help businesses to be better.
Yeah.
So he's great. And of course, we are a people-based profession. It relies not just on finding the right people, but on training and retaining the right people. And so we merged in with a firm called Aspire Executive Search, who didn't just do leadership recruitment for growing IFA firms, or growing financial planning firms, but also did like leadership coaching and developing and development and team coaching and things like that. So it was it's a real package that Aspire offered to help people with their people proposition.
You know, pretty unheard of just a few years ago when you think about it.
Yeah. So it's brilliant, and they were interested in my vision, which literally was like a bit of paper. I'm like, so guys, what do you all think to, you know, bundling our businesses into one off the back of this piece of paper? And it got them in the room, but it was only because of everybody in the room that we all stayed.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
That's fantastic. So where do you see the goal? Is there a goal, long-term goal for Melo, just out of interest?
Yeah, well, we've got a really clearly defined 5-year vision in terms of where we want to be, and then we work backwards from there. So within our business, we use the traction principles. So we run off we go out and we advise businesses, financial planning businesses, on working towards a target operating model.
Yeah.
So internally within our own business, of course, we work to a target operating model. And that is very much understanding 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, and then we break that down into 90 days, and very clear mission, very clear vision, and very clear core values which govern, you know, everything that we do. The 5-year plan is to be the go-to resource for financial planning firms that want to grow.
Yeah.
and want to exit, of course, because exit comes as part of that. But we want to really open it out so that the knowledge we have is accessible to loads of businesses. And within what we do, there is the paid for work that we do, but one of our big objectives is what we call our education piece. So how can we get, and that this is the amazing thing with technology, right? Is it is so easy now to deliver this education en masse to many firms, and that's what we want to do. We want to give it away. We know that if that there's so many firms we can work with and engage with on a one-to-one basis to really help them to implement this. But actually, we've all got this huge amount of knowledge. We all love the profession, and that was like my number one when I was looking at potential business partners. Like my number one is they've got to live and breathe this profession because I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. We all do. So it's like, right, let's share. Do you know what I mean? Let's share what we know.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working to, this amazing resource that people at any stage of their financial planning career can go to and can just gain insight, tips, help, hacks, whatever you want to call it, to try and building a better financial planning
I
business.
think it works two ways as well. Whilst you are very good at educating the market, I also notice you're very good at listening to the market as well. And I guess that's one of the reasons you wanted to buddy up with us on Life Talk,
Yeah.
the community, which, you know, it's been going 20 years now, in various shapes and forms, but it's a community where advisors use it to network, share best practice, exchange ideas, and listen to one another. And I guess for yourselves to be able to have a sort of helicopter view, for want of a better expression, are you just out of interest, are you picking anything up from what you see in Life Talk that tells you perhaps how the profession is changing, or do you see challenges that they're facing, or do you see opportunities maybe that they're missing? What's your overall, what are you seeing?
I love Life Talk. It's so good. Like obviously as part of Educate, we wanted to educate via a community. And it's just so thankful that, you know, you were open to talking to us, because how do you beat Life Talk, eh? You know, it's it's marvelous, and it is such a community run community as well. Like that's what I love about it. Every single pair, they feel like it's theirs. And I look at that at the posts on a daily basis and think, oh my goodness, there is so much knowledge here that is being shared. And when so many of these people are maybe sat on their own in offices and
Oh
they
yeah.
don't have somebody to bounce stuff off, or perhaps they would feel uncomfortable asking somebody that was closer to them, you know, so they use it as a sounding board. I just think it's amazing. The area that I think is gaining the most, or that there's probably the most to talk about, is the platform space. That really
Oh
interests
yeah.
me. I think the platform space is going to change dramatically as a result of some of the things that are coming down the track with AI and whatever else. I think that will eventually become less of a talking point, because I think we will all accept that a platform is simply a tool for advisors. So I think we're definitely going to see a load of consolidation in that area. The
Yep.
other area that I think is super interesting is the network space. Like, is it practically every other day at the moment or so, Phil?
Yeah, we get a bit of
There's
that. Yeah.
a question on there about networks. Things have forever changed for networks. The screw is tightening.
Mm.
And if you are a business owner under a network, I think you see it, and I'm right, you see it as, this is my business. I'm tapping into them for their compliance support, or I'm tapping into them for X, Y, and Z. But the reality is that the people that are running the network are liable for everything, right? I was speaking to a network firm owner the other day. He was like, I'm SMF for 500 financial advisors. Like,
Yeah.
it's terrifying. Wow. If you and this is why I think it's forever changing, that the FCA now are putting so much more scrutiny on the right outputs, the right governance and systems and processes and procedures and
Yeah.
whatever else. And it is becoming more and more expensive to run a network. And I just don't know. Well, I think I do know what the future holds for networks. I think the ones that are just taking a fee from advisors and allowing them to, operate really as they want within certain
Yeah.
parameters, I don't think they're going to be financially viable, if I'm being honest with you. I think the oversight that they have to have on their firms is going to make it near impossible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's actually what a lot of business owners who operate under networks want. And I just don't think they're going to be able to continue. I think the networks that are going to stay, that are going to be financially viable, are the ones that run more like a plug and play. So this
Yes,
is
that's
us,
interesting.
and
Good way of putting it. Yeah.
we have access to everything. And if you want to access all of our stuff, investment solution, they might be taking little clips off of things here and there, but they're doing so to create a financially viable business that other businesses can plug into. The days of using a network and really having the flexibility to build the business you want, I think, are numbered. And I think those sorts of business owners need to consider the directly authorized approach.
Yeah. And what we do see in Life Talk quite a lot is those that made the jump, almost without exception, have said they wish they'd done it years earlier, the best thing they've ever done, weight off their shoulders, all that stuff.
I think you've got to have an awareness of yourself. And I think that the same for when you're growing a business, actually, as well. You've got to look and say, what am I capable of? And that's no disrespect, right? But everybody has their strengths and everybody has their weaknesses. And when you move into business within a directly authorized firm, the FCA are scrutinizing these applications, right? Because there's so much you want to know. They want to that you need to know. And somebody put a post on Life Talk the other day. It's a brilliant post, where they were having some concerns about the network that they were with. It was an anonymous post, but they went into loads of detail. And they said, we think our next step is going to be going directly authorized. And I looked at that post. I could tell instantly just from that post, this is the sort of person that could go directly authorized.
Yeah.
Because they're asking all of the right questions. They're interrogating everything. But there are a lot of people who couldn't do that, Phil. They want to be within a network or self-employed to create and grow some value for themselves. But actually, they couldn't run a business within a directly authorized environment without bringing on a lot of other cost in additional resource to help them to do it. And that's where, for your own sanity, right, you've just got to look at yourself and say, where are my strengths? And what am I capable of achieving? Because, some people will do really well in a directly authorized environment, and that freedom will just allow them to fly. And for other people, they'll just be sat with their heads in their hands, concerned about what's going to come next. And then that's going to put them off.
So with that in mind, I mean, I'm also quite excited. I say surprised and excited to see so many younger advisors putting their heads above the parapets. Some have got all sorts of very smart ideas, which I just love. It's really exciting. What advice would you give to perhaps some younger advisors or aspiring advisors that really want to grow their career or indeed their business? Throw some thoughts at that.
So patience isn't one of my strengths, right? I started at 23. So I was one of those younger advisors, and I was itching to get going. And I did really well from it, right? But in hindsight, what I would say to those that are maybe within the first few years of their careers is, I actually think it's better to be in an environment where you're surrounded by people that you can learn from.
Mm.
Like, if you've got this huge, long, great big career to go, like treat the first few years in your career as that apprenticeship period, right? Wherever you are, treat it as that and soak up everything that you can. And you might be a really good advisor, right? But if actually what you want to do is go on to create value for yourself, and that means learning a whole different heap of skills about business.
Yeah.
And you have to be in a business, even if you're not in those meetings, those board meetings and stuff, but you're soaking it up. You're looking at what's working well in this business, what's not. And so, although I said like patience is one of my strengths, my advice actually would be to show a little bit of patience
Right.
initially, because that those foundation years of what you can learn in that time can pay huge dividends. And you can read all the books you want to read, right? But you can only really learn something when you've experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. Any other skills other than patience do you think that they would be needing to develop?
I think that one of the things I've recognized about financial advisors, even though, we're teaching people how to invest their money and we're teaching people about tax strategies and, whatever else, is that their their management of pipeline is usually
Okay.
pretty poor. And in fact, when you talk to advisors about how they manage their pipeline, they usually just like gloss over a little bit. And I think if you're going into business on your own, you've got to understand how to run a pipeline, right? Because not everything is going to convert to revenue.
Sure.
And also, it always takes longer than you think. So we help firms, for example, to build weighted pipelines so that they can start to track. If I want to achieve this here, actually, how many initial conversations do I need to have?
Yeah.
And how many of those are going to convert into wanting to do something more seriously? And how are those going to convert into the next phase and the next phase and the next phase? So, really getting a grasp on cash flow and pipeline management
Right.
is absolutely key for somebody when they're coming into or moving into business ownership, and always have more money than you think that you're going to need.
Yeah.
And my boring bit of advice, right? But this is one that that I do take. I take myself. I always take my advice myself. Is be cheap to run.
Okay.
So many people are stuck in jobs in other people's businesses because actually they can't afford to leave. They can't give themselves that grace period that you need to start to build up to the income level that you want to get to. And we live in like a really consumerist kind of culture, don't we? If I'm
Mhm.
earning more, so I'm going to get the bigger house, and I'm earning more, so I'm going to get the nicer car. And that's fine, right? But if you have ambition to move into business ownership where all of the responsibility is going to be on you, if you get poorly, to invest in your business, to have that time to make it a success, to invest in your future retirement, if you want to get going down that path, you've got to have freedom money.
Mm.
um so for anybody that is very young listening to this and just getting going, like, watch the pennies. Do you need to buy the bigger house? Do you need to buy the new car? Or actually, can you invest in your freedom pot so that then you can create more value than
Yeah.
you can ever imagine?
Before we wrap up, this has been absolutely fascinating. We ought to address um, what many think is the elephant in the room, the two letters A and I, um,
Ooh.
which isn't it interesting? We look back, what, 2 years, 3 years? Sure, there were some of the tech firms that have been working in AI for many, many years, but for the everyday advisor, and indeed you and I, AI's arrival has just transformed things. So let's put this into context. Let's fast forward. Let's go as far as 5 years from now.
Mhm.
How will the industry, the profession look, do you think, in 5 years' time, courtesy of AI?
I think it's going to adapt better to consumer needs because I don't think at the moment, I think we're lagging behind what consumers actually want. And what I mean by that is we have to think about how we consume things now outside of financial planning. We want things in our pocket, we want the answers in our pocket. We want the answers 24 hours a day. We want things quickly. We live in a TikTok world, right? We want things quickly. And we at the moment are still quite sluggish, you know. Come out and I'll see you and I'll do a review. And then in 2 weeks, you'll get your review report. You know, it's
Mm,
all a bit kind of like that. And I think that what AI is going to do is it's going to allow the profession to meet what consumers' needs are. And it's going to create accessibility for so many people. And if people are nervous about AI, instead of recognizing that if you only do what technology is capable of doing, like you've got no business in 5 years. Yeah, at the moment businesses have value, but you know, we sit at the exit space. But those businesses could have no value if tech is capable of doing what they are doing.
yeah,
So recognize where how you can enable your processes through AI. That's what I would say. It can do so much of the technical piece.
yeah.
It can transcribe meetings. They can AI can do half of your review meetings now. You know, you can make it hyper personalized. And I don't know if it's advisors either talking on behalf of their clients and saying, oh, this isn't what my clients would want. And advisors are a bit like that, right? Like the number of advisors over the years I've had to literally tell them, like, clients do not want you in their houses, you know, but they tell themselves clients want us in their houses, clients want this, clients want that, instead of actually asking the clients what they do want or considering actually the clients have changed how they consume everything else over the last
Mm,
few years.
mm,
Why on earth would you think that they wouldn't want to consume
yeah,
how they deal with financial advice? But you enable your processes through AI, and actually you can focus all of your time then on the bit that tech can't do.
yeah,
And that's where we're going to see some really exciting firms emerge. And what I'd say is this, Phil, right? If you think 8%, we said, didn't we, earlier on, 8% of adults are receiving financial advice. And there are billions and billions of pounds worth of private equity money in this space wanting to grab hold of some of this consolidation of this 8%. Can you imagine how much value there is
yeah,
in the other 92%?
yeah.
Which, when firms start to work out that they can attract this value, not deplete the service that they're offering, but expand and utilize AI, those firms are going to fly. And I do worry about the ones that don't adopt it and grab hold of it, in
Yeah.
particular the large acquirers whose businesses are based on the fact that somebody else will buy them every 5 years.
Mm, mm,
If I was a private equity fund looking into the UK financial planning space at the moment, would I want to invest my money into give a firm a nice 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, whatever the number is, and invest in their 5-year business plan if that business plan did not massively incorporate AI?
yeah.
You wouldn't want to, would you? Because it's
No,
going
I
to.
think we are on the verge of seeing some really quite entrepreneurial stuff.
Mm,
There will be a few financial advisors, and I think we already know a few, a very small number, who are already coming up with new propositions,
mm,
exciting new ways to appeal to a broader range of consumers as well, offer them massive value. And we're only limited by our own imaginations in terms of what we can do with this. very exciting time. And the conversation's too often around, oh, how many advisor jobs is this going to take? That's really not the thinking that's needed. It's got to be much, much bigger and real exciting. And go back to your piece of paper about your ideas for Melo. There'll be plenty of people on pieces of paper right now coming up with ideas for what they can do with this technology.
So they JFDI, don't they?
Yeah. So this
Because AI ain't working, isn't waiting for no man. That's one thing for sure.
Absolutely. So if people want to talk to Melo, where can they find you?
Oh, just switch on LinkedIn. I think we're everywhere. No, you can go to our website, which is melo.co.uk, or call us on 0113 465 6111.
She knows her own phone number. Marvelous.
Yeah. LinkedIn, basically, yeah. Anywhere where we can promote our brand, we are there. And as I said, we've just got an amazing team of people that genuinely have their hearts in the right place and want to support ambitious firms to grow. So yeah, look forward to hearing from some.
Fantastic. So we need to finish with two things.
Yes.
A book recommendation. Now I know the latest Lee Child book is out, but I suspect you have something else. What would you recommend to people?
Oh gosh, I love a good read. But I suppose a book in particular, 10x is easier than 2x is probably the one that I would say, right? Because what we've spoken about here, right, are firms really having to dig deep and consider whether their business models are going to stand the test of time with AI. And that's terrifying, right? Because we're not talking about incremental. What we're talking about is potentially throwing your business in the bin, or definitely shaking a few trees, right? 10x is easier than 2x is probably a really good read, because it can be so daunting going through a massive change. But what that book explains is that it's actually easier than going through small changes, because it puts you in a different mindset. To actually really go out there and try and achieve greatness. So it was brilliant. It's very heavily Dan Sullivan, so it leans on strategic coach principles, really gets into the under the skin of the importance of a proper operating model.
Fantastic.
From which you can scale.
And have you got an app that you're loving at the moment?
My favorite app? Yeah, it's Phil AI, of course. I have you in my pocket to answer all of my marketing queries.
we ought to kind of explain what that is. So Phil AI is basically a custom built AI version of me. It's my digital twin, it's my AI clone, whatever you want to do. It's trained on my content. So it is a tool for financial advisors to ask questions about marketing and lead generation. Now you could go to ChatGPT and ask it the same questions and you'll get some really good answers, but you won't get 46 years worth of experience actually working with financial. So it's real content that I've kind of learned over the years. So yes, we'll put a link to that in the show notes, I think, Vicky. Vicky, it's been absolutely fantastic. Really appreciate your time today. I know you're busy. Thank you very much indeed. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.